Welcome to One Bite at a Time, a podcast where I, Chef Wu,
and I, Chef V,
discuss our hospitality and culinary industry from both our professional and personal experiences.
and touch on all the things that make us smile, cry, laugh, shout, and celebrate, all whilst trying to figure out how to set the standard
One bite at a time. So today on our podcast, we are discussing the rich culinary heritage of Nigerian cuisine. We have clearly taken the world by storm. You have social media trends about our food. You have us kind of delving into the fine dining world and more elevated dining world using our ingredients and just figuring out how to make it spectacular.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, today we're just going to take a deep dive into what makes our food so special through culinary traditions, practices, just everything really to our techniques. And yeah, we're very excited with our guest of the week.
We have the perfect guest for this. We have Chef Sia, all the way from London, or the UK, but someone who is so deeply entrenched in Nigerian cuisine, be it by her heritage and just by what she puts out in the world. And we just felt she was a perfect person to have on here to discuss this with.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, Sia. I mean, you currently work in the UK.
Yes.
You are a private chef. You have done many renowned supper clubs, chef tables, round tables. But we want you to introduce yourself. So tell the audience who you are.
Okay. I feel like this rolls out every time I do an event. So my name is Chef Sia. I describe myself as a Nigerian British chef that tries to showcase and bridge our two cultures in the most significant way through the art of food. And cooking makes me happy.
Love it. that is literally your
that's my
trademark.
And happy foodies.
That is her thing. Absolutely. Yeah. So to start off this conversation, I felt like the perfect question to kind of open this conversation up for us would be just asking you to start. What is Nigerian food culture to you? Hey, the English is flogging me today. You guys are going to have to bear with me. It's not my best day. But what is Nigerian food culture to you?
So I look at it from two different lenses. From the traditional, Nigerian food culture is all about community. It's a vast landscape of fresh ingredients. Literally, when we say farm to table, that is what we grew up eating. You know, I remember when I was young, my mom had chickens in the house. She had peacocks. She had tomato plants growing. She had different things happening. So she could literally just go outside, take what she wants, cook it up. So I grew up with that. And the other side of the coin is, to me, the refinement of what our food is. In all honesty, when you eat a lovely bowl of Ijebu egusi, for instance. So my background is...
I've never had that.
What?
Wait, you need to. It's like you need to be
serious?
And my mom is Ijebu.
You're kidding.
I kid you.
It would change your life.
Okay, you can.
Honestly, it would change your life.
So why don't you bring it?
Yeah.
You see, I came on holiday.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get Sia in my kitchen, and we're gonna do a bit of content on TikTok with that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Okay, go on, continue.
Okay. So when you eat it in its, the basic format, after they've grounded the egusi and they cook it slowly so that it doesn't get clumpy. You don't add salt until the end because salt changes the texture, the molecular, whatever you want to call it, of the egusi when you cook it. It's just creamy, unctuous. I mean, it's beautiful. And when you just have that in its honest form, you're transported, and then you sit back. Me as I describe myself as a modern chef. I sit back and think, how else can I incorporate this particular texture other than using it in its natural format while still respecting the ingredient? Do you know what I mean? And for me, I feel like that is what Nigerian culture, in terms of food, is to me. It's just about showing respect to the food that you're cooking. I mean, I know there's this whole narrative of, we add oil to everything, yada, yada, yada. But in all honesty, when you go into people's homes, I don't actually see a lot of people that add so much oil. It's when you go to parties.
Yes.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that is what it is to me. There's a sense of respect, there's a sense of community, and just not with individuals, but with food as well.
Yeah.
That's
you said that
such
so
a
beautifully.
Yeah.
You should be a poet, honestly. Like, I feel like I was transported out of this room for a second. Like,
I was watching you in awe. That was such a beautiful way of, and this goes to something I like to talk on a lot, like seeing someone that is so wholeheartedly passionate about what they're doing, like the way you've spoken about that, you know, what you're doing is not just because you're trying to make money. You care about it. And that is so important.
Yeah. Honestly, I had visuals in my head of your home and the love in the kitchen. Everything you said from farm to table. Honestly, like, I think you've pictured Nigerian food culture so well, because our culture is that feeling of everything is very innate. It's homely. It's intimate. It's celebratory of our traditions, our techniques, who we are. I love everything you said. If I was just to add anything to that, what does Nigerian food culture mean to me? I like to look back at history, at how we were as people before any sort of colonization even happened. And one thing I find so fascinating is how our different tribes have just traveled and crossed different countries, different spaces. And this is within Africa first, looking at West Africa, for example, seeing how, for example, you can find Yoruba influence in not just Nigeria, it's in all through the West Africas. It's gone across with, the slave trade. It's also gone across to the Americas. But we as people we established ourselves through our tribes, and it wasn't about being from a specific space, but it was more so we traveled, and you can find our tribes were in different areas. It wasn't about country. Nigeria as a country is relatively new, but our tribes had been there for time, and they had established themselves all throughout. So to me, that's our culture. It's traveled. It's so beautiful to see how you can find where your culture is in a completely different country. So when I hear what is Nigerian food culture, I'm like, what is really Nigerian? It's more who is our people? How do our people travel? So to me, that's something that I find really fascinating now when I look back at it and think, Nigeria is only how many? Is it 60?
It's true.
And it's new. Before that, what were we? What were our tribes doing? How did our culture travel? So when you say, about the oil situation now, there's so many things that we've attached to, this is how Nigerian food is, that really isn't traditional, but it's what we have been used to post-colonization. Maggi has to be in your food. So there's so many things.
That's great, because for me, food culture is, you guys have kind of touched on like traditional things, and I think for me, I was introduced to Nigerian food early on. Like, that was what we ate. But obviously, I was born and raised in London as well. So it was like, in as much as I was eating that, I was also eating British food. But that was used almost like a threat. So like, my mom would always say things to me like, if you don't behave yourself and social service take you away, you'll be eating sausage and mashed potatoes for the rest of your life. And I realized that I was so attached to Nigerian food, and I feel like that's kind of what has driven me. So for me, I don't know that I can define Nigerian food culture, because mine is very much intertwined with my foundation of it is from that side of the world, and I didn't have access to so much. I've only just discovered something like uyayak yesterday. Was the first time I played with it in any capacity. I didn't know it existed like that. I'd seen it a lot, but I'd never, because we don't use it in our cuisine. Like, as I don't know if Yorubas use it a lot. So to my understanding, we don't. And so when I broke it open for the first time yesterday and I smelt it, I was like, wow. And that's kind of one of the reasons I came back, because I wanted to understand our food culture a lot better, because there was only so much of it I had access to over there. So I don't know that I can define it. I don't know that I have a right to define it just yet.
I think I can relate with that too. I mean, most of my years growing up were in the UK as well. It was basically what was around there.
It's what you have access to.
And you come back here and you see such an abundance of material to work with. And it's also important, like you said, if you're from a home that it's, a particular tribe. That's maybe what you
That's
grew up
what you
with.
know.
But it's when you start exploring, looking outside and seeing what other tribes, because there's so many tribes in Nigeria. You can literally go 500 kilometers down and there's a completely different way of making a soup or a stew.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating. That's why it's good to open up your horizons,
Your
I would say,
horizons to
and be open to learning from each other, which I think is what we did.
No, I agree
I'll
with that.
share a fun memory from when I was like really young. So I think I was probably about maybe 10, just before my parents shipped us to the UK. And I remember one night, they send you to bed as parents do. Parents went off to bed, and then that's when the nanny that we had would have for dinner because she wanted to cook her food. So I think my parents had gone out, so she would then stay in the room. So she went to get her food, obviously, and then we were woken up by the smell. Me and my sister were like, "What's that?
Yeah.
We haven't smelled that before." And we just saw her in the corner. She was talking to me like, we at least got out of the bed and we're like, "What's that?" She goes, "Oh, it's called bangashu." We're like, what is bangashu? Because throughout our 10 years, we've only ever been exposed to Yoruba cuisine. And, she was describing that, it's like a palm nut stew, because we had a palm kernel tree in our house. So they would literally just be dropping and then, hey, farm to table, Me, I was like, I'm going to try it. And she was like, it's my food. I was like, I'm sorry. We're going to try it. You can't come into the room and be awoken, by food, essentially. And I tried it for the first time and I thought to myself, wow.
Like, one of my favorite soups.
Honestly, when your mind blows open.
I know exactly what you're trying to describe right now.
Exactly.
Like those little explosions that are happening in your head and suddenly you realize you're awakened to a whole new horizon.
And I was like, are you trying to tell me there are other things that I haven't tried that would give me that sick? And I would say that those are like the core memories that I have that made me curious about food.
Yes.
And I always think to myself, like, thank God for my parents going out that day, because it might have taken me another few years to have been exposed to that experience, So food is, honestly, it does bridge every culture in Nigeria as long as you're open to it.
That experience that thing you just explained, I remember the first time that happened for me was with ogbono. Weirdly enough. But that was I will never forget the day I ate that in my grandma's house. And it was literally that light bulb moment in my head. I was like, yo. And we called it moi moi soup. And I don't know that I want to explain, but it was a color. So we were familiar with moi moi. This one we weren't familiar with.
Yeah.
And the color. So me and my sister called it moi moi soup for so long. Oh, wow. I'm like, there's so much reminiscing. Like, wow.
For me, it was being introduced to Yoruba food. So I come from a mixed background. My dad is from River State. He's Igbo as well. My mum is from Calabar, so she's Efik. I grew up with Eddie Kong, Afang. I grew up with the boles and the fish. I grew up with fisherman soup, and then my dad's side is Igbo. So coming and being introduced to proper Yoruba kind of cuisine, I was just blown away, one by the pepper, because I love pepper. My mom doesn't. I don't know where my pepper habit came from.
Yeah.
So just being introduced to that fiery essence of the cuisine. I remember when I first had the way you make okra soup, and I don't know if it's every Yoruba household, but adding the stew on top.
Yeah.
Now I started adding stew onto every soup.
I was like, adding the stew onto. Okay, no, I said
that's
now
not
it makes sense.
I
loved
it. I was so obsessed because I was just like, wow. So you're telling me the soup that I only ate with rice, I can make stew. Sorry, the stew I only ate with rice. I can add this to every. I added everything. My mom was like, you don't do this. I was like, I will do it. I do not care. And then when I started having amala, like I only got into amala maybe. Is it like a year and a half ago?
Are you kidding?
That's why I'm so obsessed. That's why you see me on a story amala every week. Yeah. I am obsessed. It's like a new obsession to me because it's not what I grew up with.
That's so interesting.
I think it's one of the most beautifully created dishes. Everything is just so perfectly done.
The person that came up with that, wherever you are,
God bless you.
God bless you.
So speaking about our different tribes and cultural influences, right now in your culinary journey, where would you say you are currently drawing a lot of your inspiration from?
So, I know because I am Yoruba, my launchpad is from that point of view. But last year, I was all about smoking. Every other thing I had on my private dining menu or, events that I did, I would smoke something because there are different degrees to me of smoking that pulls out different flavor profiles, that plays, around your palate, that dances around your tongue. And when you then think of, okay, when they cook jollof rice on a wood, over wood fire, it has a particular profile. When you use charcoal to, or grill, it has a particular profile.
Yeah.
So for me, I was so obsessed with that, despite the fact that in my house, there's no wood fire pits now that I'm going out to go and cook or anything like that. But I would say that essentially my lunch pad is from Yoruba cuisine, but I like playing with a variety of different things that, that I don't know how to describe it well, but that would allow me to say, okay, I'm pulling this because I'm looking for this flavor. I'm pulling that because I'm looking for that.
Yeah.
I might be exposed to a new ingredient. So I went for an event a couple of days ago, and there was this particular dish that I had, and I thought to myself, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought of using the skin of agbalumo to make something. And I thought to myself, it's not until you have those experiences that you realize that there is so much more that can be done. As a chef, or as we as chefs, I believe that, we have a duty to explore as many things as possible,
100%.
just so that we can showcase things in its entirety.
Exactly.
Yes, pay respect to where you're from, but be open to things that
Exploring its versatility.
Exactly. So for me, I dance around. I don't just cook things anymore that are purely Yoruba.
Yeah.
I cook things from an ingredient point of view
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
Okay, I take that ingredient, I mix that
Yes,
ingredient,
definitely.
and create something entirely new.
But still gives you that nostalgic link
Yes.
back
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. I think similar to you, I can't lie, it's very much Yoruba because that was my foundation. That was what I knew. And then again, focusing on the ingredients. So when I speak about food, I will explain to people that my biggest thing is just wanting people to understand how versatile our ingredients are. So when I see Nigerians and then they get upset because someone from a different West African country has cooked okra differently, I'm like, you guys are not, you don't have monopoly over ingredients.
Ooh.
Our ingredients have traveled so
Yep.
far, so wide, like you said earlier. So it is, as chefs, I think it's our duty to actually explore and interrogate how else these things can be used outside of what our foundational knowledge of it is. But like you said, using the foundational knowledge as your
As your
launch pad.
stepping
Yeah.
stone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't think I have much to add, to be honest, but I will just talk about how I grew up. So obviously, my early most memories were actually outside of Nigeria, and I would say my palate growing up was very much more international foods, British foods. Like I went to primary school in England, so that's a lot of the food. I grew up with bangers and mashed shepherd's pie.
Yeah, good stuff. I
those-
can't lie.
One is done well.
Honestly, one is done well.
Yeah.
But I remember the instances when my mom would cook at home, and she would always cook. My mom loves to cook the same thing. It was coconut rice, it was afang, it was okra, and yam porridge. Those were the 4 things I just remember eating all the time. But the one that I was especially obsessed with was her coconut rice. And I could never understand why when I had other people's coconut rice, it was never how she did it. And I would ask her questions. I'm like, how come anytime I go to a party, it's not the same as yours? What do you add? Even her yam porridge is sweet. So she tells me she likes to add sugar.
Yeah.
And with her, she especially loves to work with like a very deep seafood stock. So she uses the prawn heads, the shells, she uses crayfish, all the dried fish, everything is like
yeah.
a dry fish, dry seafood, all that stock, that goodness is her secret. And she says that's how she learned from where she comes from. So I was obsessed with that. And I think you can see it in a lot of my food, my seafood bisques. And, I love to work with prawn heads. I love to work with the seafood. And that comes down to my mum. But I think because of how I was exposed to different types of food, I never attached it to a culture or tribe. It was just more, this is how my mum cooked. And she'll do different things. Like I said, with yam porridge, she'll add sugar, which I don't even know if is traditional or not.
We've always added sugar. That's how my mum made it too.
So she taught me to just be following a particular taste I was
Taste,
after.
and not
And
just
I literally, if I'm cooking something, I will just play around because I'm looking for a desired taste and not for this is how it was made.
That's a chef talking.
No, honestly, no, see, a lot of time when people ask me, oh, where do you draw inspiration from? Oh, where do you do this? And I keep telling people, there's no big secret. I'm literally just sitting down and Holy Spirit will be like, oh, go and cook cocoyam.
She said Holy Spirit.
No, honestly, that's literally what it is.
I relate.
And I'll be like, I've never really eaten cocoyam in a particular way or anything like that because it's not. And then you're like, hey, go and figure it out. I'm like, you're not going to give me an expo. I should just go and figure it out. But then I know the at the back of my head or the back of my tongue. I know what I'm looking for texture-wise. I know what I'm looking for taste-wise. And then you're working backwards. Rather than just following a recipe.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're working from the flavor profile to then recreate it. And then once you get it, and you're like,
that's it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, girl.
Yeah. So I think with what we've just discussed here, it's a perfect way to kind of go into like cultural cooking techniques and methods and things. I have recently just kind of wanted to delve into that and think more of how to incorporate that into what I do, just because I'm of the school of thought that the way they traditionally made food completely changes the flavor. So I always use this as an example. When they make ewedu with
what, the brush?
The brush thing, ibashe, ijabe. Yeah, I hope that's right. And ijabe. I am convinced that there is flavor in that. That the ewedu made with an ijabe and the ewedu made in a blender
it's not the same.
Tastes differently.
You can say the same thing with pounded yam. Is it the flavor
yes,
of the
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm just curious to know, like, what cultural, like, cooking techniques are you kind of intrigued about, or have you used in your? So, like you mentioned, smoking earlier, which is one. Are there any other ones that are kind of?
So, I'm really interested in the complexities of the banana leaf. Right?
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
It's one of those things where I'm really surprised that there isn't like banana leaf powder. Do you know what I mean?
And I guess exactly why you think that, because there is flavor in that.
There is flavor in that. There's
100%.
a reason why it's not just used in Africa. It's used all over the world.
Yes.
And the fact that somebody has not just thought to himself, why don't we just try? Does it change the color? Does it change the complexities? What is it about it? And because I know that it's not just, because a lot of people just use it for presentation purposes. So people use it as a carrier for something, and then they found out that it became, added flavor, whatever the case may be. Why isn't there a 3D silicone tray for me to put my moi moi batter the way I want to cook it, so that it still looks and shapes like a moi moi leaf? Do you know what I mean?
You might need to go to the Mold Brothers and tell them that's what you're after.
See, I always tell people I have ideas, but to go and execute it, you guys are executioners. So
honestly speaking, what you're talking about, I think we first have to understand and celebrate the amount and abundance of technique in our cuisine that it has taken. It's a sad thing that it took me to get professionally trained to realize just how much of what we call Michelin techniques are naturally in what we do.
Yeah.
But because, for example, you're talking about these 3D molds, you're talking about global standards that are created by the Western world, they haven't been put into our what's it called?
We've not been used as a reference point.
We've not been used as a reference point. So you're
saying,
looking at someone from the UK or America or whatever, they're not going to look at our African techniques or cuisines and see how to standardize that into production capacity for restaurants or fine dining establishments. But it's up to us to make those points, to join A and B and to say, you know what, this is, for example, how they've turned cornstarch into a thickener. We can do how we have natural thickening agents in our
Mm-hmm.
yam, for
Yeah.
example. So these are things like you said, the banana leaf powder. Why that is not even a commercial thing. I'm looking at so many techniques in our food,
Yes.
and I'm just I don't even when I look at your question, I don't even know how to answer that because I'm still in that process of just identifying,
Yes.
not from a place, because we know it, it's in our
Yeah.
nature, in our action, but to
Mhm.
identify it in my brain to say,
Mhm.
let's pull this process out and single it out
Yeah.
and see how we can
Engineer it.
Yes.
how we can educate and reinform how this is specifically doing what it is doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, this might not necessarily be culinary related, but is it just for lack of a better phrase, a Nigerian thing? Because I went to Morocco for the first time last year, and they don't shy away from their tagine,
Mhm.
from the natural. They're going to give it to you in the way
In
that
the
is
way
meant
it's
to be
meant to be.
presented. Do you know what I mean? You can also even go into the fine dining sector. They will still provide you with a fine dining version of a tagine pot.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Why is it that when it comes to, our type of cuisine, that we shy away?
We shy away.
Do you know what I mean? We shy away. There's an avenue for everything. I understand that.
Mhm.
But I think from a cultural point of view, we need to embrace it, what we are,
Yeah.
without being pretentious,
Mhm.
and lean into the fact that, hey, you might not follow this lady, but she went to Asia a while ago. And, obviously very similar to the way we make our wedu. They make tea and things like
Yeah,
that.
with
they
the
do.
And she was like,
it's
that
the
is
same
a
thing as
way
the
to
matcha.
sell Nigeria.
I know
Why
exactly
doesn't-
what you're talking about because I saw that post and I saw
Yeah.
that thing and I can't remember who it was, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I thought to myself, bingo, that is a way to export our culture. Like, hey,
Because she went to like a tea making
Yes,
session,
yes.
and I remember
Do you know what I'm
that.
saying?
Because
Yeah,
it's similar, even like the matcha brush.
but
That's
yes,
what they
it's
use.
the same
Yes.
thing.
Similar
Yeah,
concept.
but that's something that is similar to what there's a I think it's not Dawa Dawa experience. I don't know the name. It starts with D. I'm gonna get it and we're gonna put it here. But she does those kind of cultural cooking experiences. I think she's in Ghana.
Okay.
I follow her on Instagram. The name is escaping me, but we will put it there. And it is great because literally you have white people going there. They're sat on mats on the floor.
I mean, Binta does that as well.
I think
Binta
does. Yeah,
Yes.
Binta does the dine on the mats one, but
Yes.
there's another one that's a really local. It's similar to the two of them. And so people are doing it, but like you said, Nigerians are not doing that enough.
I mean, unfortunately, I think we have still been influenced by what we're looking at on a global scene from the outside in.
Why adulation at play again?
Rather than looking inward and seeing how to translate our culture, our cuisine to an international stage from our standpoint.
Yes.
And that is the difference. One of the things I'm so fascinated right now is fermentation. I am obsessed with fermenting.
Oh God!
And to see so many things that are just naturally we add to our foods without so many people not understanding that this is technique is
fermentation.
Is fermentation.
Iru or fada rice.
Exactly. It's fermented rice.
It's fermented rice. It's fermented too now.
Mate.
Well, there's so many things. So many. Even elubo, or real elubo is fermented. It's fermented yam. That's why when people are like amala is made with yam skins, I'm like, are you bush?
Ooh.
It's literally yam that they slice.
Yeah.
They let it sun dry, then it goes dark.
Exactly.
Then they blend that in. That is real yam elubo issue, right?
Yes.
But yeah, so fermentation is such a big one because I'm only understanding how to do it for myself now, like how to actually, but then just knowing, like you said, so many of our traditional things that we use inherent, like we just go, we use it innately. Where a lot of people are unaware that these are fermented.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. Wow.
So saying all these and speaking about the techniques that are literally used in our culture and our cuisine, I think this just naturally takes us into how as chefs we can progress our cuisine into the world of fine dining. What are we doing? What have we done already? And what can we see ourselves doing more of?
So I would say that there's a lane for everything. I remember listening to one of your episodes where you talk about how to classify yourself, fine dining, upscale, whatever the case may be. And that's wrongly true. When I was thinking about the kind of food that I like to put out, there is experimental fine dining where you literally go in, you test recipes, you invite people, but you serve them, with a heightened experience, be it through music, be it through visuals, whatever the case may be, even if you just want to educate them. But as long, excuse me, as long as you're not deviating from what your vision or concept is. So when I cook for my clients, I don't necessarily describe myself as a fine dining chef because that's not my style. I'm not white tablecloth. I'm not going to be brushing your table. However, I try to lean into the presentation of it for it to be clean, not because the plate is clean, but you can clearly see all
it's
the parts.
refined.
Yes, thank you. That's the word. So I wouldn't necessarily say, we have to pull our cuisine into height and fine dining. I think what we need to do is ensure that, like we said, flavor is very big for us. Presentation is very big for us. And ensuring that we're ticking those two boxes first and ticking them well. And then we can lean. Because for me, I would say that if I was to invite any foreign person to come and have an authentic Nigerian fine dining restaurant, I would want them to sit on the floor. I would want them to eat with their hands. But it's all about ensuring that the experience around it is that top notch.
Can I add to that? I think this is why I asked the question. I think you've just basically gone into what I wanted to say. And the mistake I think we made before was that we have tried to attach an outward or international standard to our cuisine and our culture, which is the biggest mistake I think we made. If I look, for example, at Japanese cuisine and how they have, the way that they presented their cuisine, I think it's called one of them is I can't remember.
What, teppanyaki?
No, I'm thinking about the sashimi or sushi experience, the 7 to 9 course things that they do.
I think I know what you're
And
talking about.
it's about the process of how they slice the fish, how they present it.
Yeah.
I love those chef table experiences, and I don't think they've done anything to make themselves Europeanized.
No,
They
no.
strictly stuck to this is how we did it. You can sit on the floor, you have the tea ceremony, you have the sashimi, you have the way they've folded the rice, because to them, what makes them considered fine dining is just how perfect
intricate
that technique is. And that you can't just, they have a very particular fish or this type of fish that is used for each different thing. When you look at it, it is so intricate. It is so like, I look at it like molecular. It's very molecular. It's very scientific. It's like calculated, very mathematical.
Very intentional.
So they have found how to accentuate what they do and what they're proud of. And I think that's what you said. If you're going to do a fine dining Nigerian experience, what is it that makes us Nigerian? I think we have to go from the inside out rather than saying, in London, this is what they call fine dining, so let's try and replicate this with our food. No, it's what is it with our food? Like if you look and take let's use one example. Let's just use jollof rice. Let's keep it simple. Breaking it down step by step, we have the smoking. You have the maybe the type of tomato that's used, how you break down the acidity to make it sweet, the type of rice used, how you present, that kind of thing, how you eat it. Maybe even saying we'll eat this with our hands today, as a family, this is how we ate. So what makes us us? And do it, every stage is done perfectly.
Yes.
That to me is what we need to do more of.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying. And you mentioned about the Japanese being like very proud of what they do. And so in that way, they've figured out a way to stick to the authenticness of it, but make it presentable without diluting it at all.
Exactly.
And the irony of that is that as Nigerians, we're extremely proud people, but the things you'd expect us to be proud about, we're not. And that shouldn't be lost on us. Like there's a dissonance there, and I don't know why that's at play. I do know actually. You guys are gonna be tired of hearing me say it. I do know, and people out there know as well. And I think, and we mentioned this, I think maybe in the first episode, where it's like it might be the second episode actually. Until we're honest with ourselves, we can't separate ourselves from that. Like we need to go back to who we are.
Yes.
You know, as you said, that we're proud of the things that we're not. We shouldn't be proud of. I just, you know, we're so loud and proud about saying, "Oh, we got this from Paris, all the way from Geneva." Okay, we got this from the depths of Ojuelegba, or you know,
she said Ojuelegba,
honestly.
But you know what? We should come out with the same pride and energy for our home, you know, the beauty and abundance of our ingredients, of our land, what we use with our hands, what we use with our pots and our mortar, you know, all these things we should be. It's not about fine dining is only fork and knife. It's not. What's the process of washing our hands? You know, that could be. I can imagine that in a very beautiful restaurant.
And you know, there's a place. Sorry, there is a place that does that, and it might be in New York, it might be somewhere else, but it's a 8 or 10 course, and it's something that seems so, because it's not their culture, so people don't get it. So it's like this weird, but like you eat the food with your hand, you have to rub your hand in the chocolate. Like it's such a very hands-on, and like that would work so well. Can you
imagine ending your meal with a chewing stick?
Oh, I think you have an experience on your hands that you need to put together, babe.
Yes.
I think you have something on your hands that you need.
I'm trademarking that. No one copy me.
Even we used to do that in this Nigeria.
Yeah, no, honestly, I would say that there's something to be savored there, where why not, whoever decides to do it, why not actually have a space where people can choose? If you want to go and sit on a chair, fork and knife, and have that experience, fine. And then, two roads diverge. I mean, what's that poem? Two roads diverge in Yellowwood. You want to have the authentic Nigerian fine dining experience. You go this way. 8 people sit down on the floor, come together. Like you said, start to finish. You feel the authenticity of being Nigerian. You will not take away from someone else's experience that decides, I don't want to sit on the floor. That's all well and good. Go that way. Have that experience. There's a lane for everything. If you want to be up there with the Nigerian experience, do that.
So what you're trying to say is that we can take different rooms, like different categories, honestly. Of what do you want to say?
So no, because you said that, someone will go to one place and they can either go this way or go that way. But I think it's more a thing where if you want to, I believe in sticking to one thing and doing it well. Because what would then happen in a place like that is, choose this one or choose that one. Knowing how things run here, they should be separate concepts, basically. Knowing how things run here, what's going to happen is one is going to suffer
from the other.
If maybe they notice they're not getting enough bookings in that authentic room,
all of a sudden, do
you get what I mean? So it's a thing where if you're going to do a concept like that, do it and execute it well.
I get what you're saying. I think that's how to do it. I think no matter which way you want to take it as a Nigerian establishment, there are multiple ways you can. You can do the white tablecloth if you really want to,
but do it well.
Do it well.
You can do the floor, the family concept. There's so many avenues for Nigerian food to take charge of.
100%.
So many. And I think, it's a good thing that we are seeing the wave of Nigerian food trending in all aspects. I mean, we've seen it on social media with, normal restaurants and a goosey soup and trying fufu and a goosey. We've seen it all the way now to, which I'm just so happy to see, Michelin restaurants in our category. Seeing Chisu, Chef Joke, Akoko as well being awarded. So finally our names are, showing up internationally, up and down.
Conversation.
But do you feel like within the continent we're ready for such experiences?
Yes. And I say that boldly, because we are prepared to travel out and have those experiences elsewhere, me included. I'm not gonna lie, sometime in 2012, me and my sister woke up one day and said, you know what, we're taking time off work and we're going on a food holiday to New York. We spent about 3 days in the winter and all we did was eat. And now I think to myself, where are the people that are prepared to do that for us?
Mhm.
They're definitely out there. It
Mhm.
just has to be packaged in the right way. You know, everything, like say everything are packaging. Let's call it spade a spade.
Yeah.
Everything are packaging.
Everything is.
If you prepare a space for one to travel to and say, you know what, I want to have an authentic Nigerian fine dining experience, such as a ton, such as, honor people that are doing experimental cuisine here in Nigeria, was to say that it can't be fully recognized down to the down to the top. World's 50 best, or best restaurant this, best restaurant that. I'm not necessarily looking for the accolades,
Yeah.
but I want us to be bold enough to showcase it that they will have no choice but to recognize us. At the same time, we also need to be able to recognize
ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do I put this? That's also, links back to what we said earlier, where Nigerians were very proud, we like to do things our own way, but then we're waiting for someone else to tell us.
We're waiting
We're waiting.
for
We don't
the
have to wait.
appreciation
Yeah.
from someone else.
We know what good food is. It doesn't have to be at the top. It can be your local booker down the road. It can be your fast food restaurant down the road. It can be someone selling puff puff that's selling the best puff puff ever. Like now, there's this whole debate of akara, but what they used to compare the akara that just opened in London is not an akara restaurant in Brazil. It's street food vendors that they're trying to use to say, oh, it's not just in West Africa that they serve this particular dish.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking, why are we even comparing street food to someone that's trying to do it upscale? But that's because there's an avenue for everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But,
But do you feel like there's, I hate to say this, but do you feel like there had to be the Chisurus and the Akokos to happen outside of the continent for some sort of spotlight or recognition to start coming into the continent?
It's the Nigerian way.
It is. It's how it's
It's the Nigerian
unfortunate.
way. I mean, I don't want to mention his name, but that's how Burna Boy essentially.
That's what I'm saying. Like, once you've been given the recognition internationally, for some reason, it seems like that's when
it propels
your
you a
home
bit
will
more.
give you that stamp of approval.
So yeah, okay. I agree, but I don't agree, and I don't know how to. But I get what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe it's because you use Burna Boy as an example now. My brain is like, wait. But I do get that because I was a big fan of Burna Boy, and I knew him from my introduction to Burna Boy was when I was in London. So it's not that I was familiar with him here and I loved his music. But then I do agree that what then happens is when you get one kind of international recognition, then it kind of propels you. People respect your art and your work more and etc. It's techie, but we also cannot deny that it does happen.
Yeah.
And we have to be honest about it.
Yeah. And I remember when we had these fine dining establishments. I don't know why I did that. Fine dining establishments open up in London. I remember Ikoyi, then Akoko, then Chishu was also there. So those three, let's use them all in the same vicinity.
Sorry, can I just don't lose your point, but Chishiru is not a fine dining establishment, and I think that's the beauty of the fact that they have a Michelin star.
That's why I did that.
Yeah,
because
Chishiru out of the other two definitely are, but Chishiru is not, and that's actually the most beautiful part of her acquiring that star.
Yeah. Like, I think that's what we were talking about with fine dining having its categories. But what she does is she does refine.
Yes, it's refined, it's elevated.
So when I say fine dining, I can't give them,
can't separate
in terms
of
refining our food and putting them in a different light.
Yeah,
those three have done that. And I remember at first the sort of hate that Nigerians gave these establishments. Oh, what are they doing to our food? The portions, this is not authentic, this is not that. To the point, I remember Ikoyi having to come out with a statement saying, we're not
I remember that statement,
And I love to have this conversation with people because I'm like, they're not trying to, you
not
can go
taking away.
to Chinatown and get authentic Chinese food. Then you have the Hyde Park, Chinatown, and all these. So there's a space for all, but we fought those establishments for trying to make our food fine dining. Then now they've all been awarded something. Oh, I'm so proud. I'm the same people that
our pride is often misplaced. We fight for them being angry with Ikoyi for being called Ikoyi, but then also having, because I think it has like a Japanese, it's like a marriage of Japanese and Nigerian influences, which is amazing. And then we're angry at that. But like you said, the anger is misplaced, because if anything, you should be like, wow, I didn't know I could do that with Nigerians. Oh, you're being open to a new
It takes maturity to say that this may not be for me, but I'm so proud to see how my food has been translated to a different kind of market or palate.
Yes.
That's how food travels. That's how recognition travels. That's how respect across. That's how you get people who may not have been curious about where you're from get curious. And that's why I was asking, did it have to come from outside? Because maybe now they've seen the likes of Akara or Akoko and Chisu. So some people who may not have been interested in I've seen so many TikToks. Oh, this is my first time trying West African cuisine.
Yes.
Now, what do we do to bring that onto the continent?
Yeah. I would say that, and a lot of people may, dislike me for what I'm about to say. Ikoyi did a thing for us, despite the fact it being the head chef is not Nigerian. The head chef is not even African. His partner is, that he runs the business with. But they did a thing for us. They opened the eyes of possibility for what our food can do in that sector, and financially speaking as well. Because 100%, if I had gone to the bank and asked for a loan to have done what they were doing, I would have been laughed at.
Did you not say that on the second episode?
Yeah, you did.
We did.
They did a thing for us, and I'm not mad at it. I'm prepared to piggy bank off that success and say, you know what? You've opened the doors. And that is why spaces like Akoko and Chisho can do what they're doing and do it differently. Because again, they're not providing the same service, but they're still touching on those nostalgic notes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So you've done it outside. Now we have spaces in Nigeria that are willing to start thinking, okay, if it's possible over there, it's definitely possible here. And the plethora of things that we have at our disposal is definitely more than
what they have.
Do you know what I mean? There's so many ingredients I know that I can't take back with me. By the time I get to Customs,
UK border force.
They'll say, Auntie, where you going? How far? Do you know what I mean? So, there comes a time when it's like, okay, let's do things the right way. I love what Chef Moyo is doing. I love what Chef Obehi is doing. I love what Chef Michael is doing. And they're not offering me the same experiences.
Exactly.
But they're all using the same ingredients.
Yeah.
I find it so beautiful that you've taken this one thing, you've created that. You've taken the same thing, you've created that. And it's vast. There is space for everyone to own their own lane and ensure that we get the right recognition, both at home and abroad. I definitely see the next wave in terms of culinary trends being heavily West African. But we also need to be prepared for what's going to come.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of campaigning that we should allow ourselves as well if we are looking for that international recognition, right? But ensure that you know what you're doing. Are you saying what you are is what you are? Are you offering the right experiences? Are you providing the right level of service? Are you doing what you're meant to be doing?
Exactly.
You don't want to invite someone to come over and then
disgracing everybody.
Well.
Yes,
exactly.
No other way to say
it has to be so well thought of.
Yes,
and bringing it back home, I think I'm so proud we have this buzz. I'm so proud we have this trend of everyone asking questions of what is West African cuisine. It's up to us as a continent as well to bring such attraction here through creating our own standards, creating our own conferences, events that bring them in. I think we're sometimes very attracted to international, well-established conferences and the likes of. But if we can take that buzz and heavily invest in it to say, you know what, we're going to have a very well thought out culinary conference here in Nigeria, where not only are we celebrating the talents that are here, which I wish, the festivals that you see happening here, we're not celebrating our chefs here, but we celebrate our chefs, put them on a podium to showcase what they're doing, also inviting those diasporan chefs or people interested in investing in West African cuisine and hospitality. I think if we have those events, that would be great. If we created our own guides and world's best, why not create our own here? So that when tourists are coming in, they have places that they can go to and say, you know what, the work has been done to show what different countries have on offer. So I'm tired of waiting for us to say
for someone else.
Add us into your platform. No, it's time we create our platform and work off this trend
and remove the politics from it. I beg you. It's not my fault to put my name on a list. Let me just say it right now. If you put someone that has actually put the work in and done it right, and actually influenced, culinary speaking, not just because they're a loud voice. Please. Let's do. Please. No, because I've seen it play
Vanessa,
out.
don't do that again. Sorry, inside jokes, a little one bite joke.
I see it played out time and time again where the same people keep getting recognized, and I'm saying they're allowed, but what have they actually done?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But fair enough, they might have opened doors or whatever the case may be, but what have they actually done to influence the culinary industry in the right way to ensure that we're leaving a legacy behind for the next generation to come through the ranks and make more noise? For me, it's all about the people behind me. What are they going to do? What standard are we setting for them? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's not about us. It's about what's coming next. Who's coming next?
If you put the right people in these positions, the integrity of what you're doing would be so much more respected. The outcome would be so much larger than just, we're trying to be popular by having this person come and show us how to fry dodo. But
speaking of dodo, did you see the April Fool's prank?
I did, but now they're gonna make it.
They better make it.
They make it.
Ah, no, I was ready to fight.
Because it was only because you posted it, I knew it was a prank, and I was fuming.
Oh my gosh, we have to create our own platforms. At the same time, I think it is very interesting to see the international conferences now be interested in even just a tiny bit showcasing African food, and I think we can use that opportunity and invest in that even more to make sure our presence is not just a toothpick, but a hammer. We should come in with a bang.
Yes.
I mean, you've attended, I think, you were part of 2 conferences this year.
Yes.
You had the Davos first.
WEF at the start of the year, and most recently HRC 24, which is the Hotel Catering Conference. And I would say that Nigeria most especially, we're going in the right direction. But because there's so much already on ground, we need to move faster. We need to push that needle a bit more. I was really, really happy and proud to see that a lot of people embraced our food at Davos. And what made me even more especially proud was because people would come up to me and they would say, either they've never had Nigerian food and they really enjoyed it, or that this is the first one that they've come to, but they've actually enjoyed the food and gone back for more. We got to a point where I had to start begging them. You can't be giving people multiple, because we still have to feed a whole lot more people coming through. And then most recently, HRC, one thing I actually noticed, and I mentioned it to them as well, that it seemed like countries had their own sections. There was a Polish section, there was a Turkish one, there was a China one. And I kept looking around like,
where's Nigerian?
Not just Nigeria, where's Africa? Do you know what I mean? A couple of stands, apart from Future Plates as well, a couple of stands had their own thing. But I thought to myself, what is stopping even our government or, the ministry or even a collective of us in the UK to come together and say, you know what, we're representing Nigeria. Just have a big bold stand, take 6 stands and just showcase. Because at the end of the day, it's all about visibility. It doesn't matter if you don't buy from us, but the more you see us, the more we're out there, the more that we put a face to the culture. That's the only way we're going to educate them.
Of course.
You know, and I'm loving what Future Plates is doing, because that's exactly what they're all about, and showing that we make a mark, or we make a mark in the right way through the process of education, and actually showing them like, hey, this is what we have to offer. And, you know, I'm hoping that with that, then, you know, we're launching to the stratosphere where West Africa becomes the next global point of food.
Exactly. I think what I love to hear is that when internationals taste our food for the first time, or even just in general, they just say how good the food is. And there's so many avenues we could go to. It just took me back to when I was in Qatar, actually. And there's two involvements I did there when I was doing project management. We actually took Ikoyi to do a gala dinner there. And no one could stop talking about the food from all the different events happening. They said this is the only event that we've actually enjoyed the food. What is this? What is in West Africa? What is, you know, they were so amazed. And then I actually had the opportunity to do canapes for an event. And I've never told this story before, but it was for the royal family and a lot of executives. It was a conference post arts exhibition, and I got to do the canapes, everything celebrating Nigeria. I remember 2 days before the event, they told me that they were also bringing in this world acclaimed American chef from to come and do a fresh crab display. And I had the biggest imposter syndrome, thinking this person is that everyone apparently knows.
Who told you are not world acclaimed?
Girl, imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you should go somewhere else.
Oh, this person's also going to be at the same, both of you are basically head to head on the canapes. And he came in, you know, and you know, and I just felt thinking like, why am I here? But I got hyped up, put out my canapes, and his food wasn't eaten. I kid you not. He was so angry, like, who is this black chef? That's probably what he was thinking.
White?
Yeah, white American. He's like, who is this black chef that's just come in that I don't know about? Who is she and why are they eating all her food?
She's Chef Sia, and her food has flavor.
Thank you.
So if we took that, if our continent took that and invested heavily in making sure our footprint, as well as if we took charge of the international conferences and said, you know what does it take to invest to make sure our name is, you know, let's put Africa there, loud and proud. The attention we'd get, because the buzz is there for a reason. It's not just buzz. It's good flavor. It's
the same. Similar thing happened to me in Morocco. When people mention conferences, it completely slipped my mind. But I went for Chef Friggs. He was booked, and we were just assisting on the gig. And honestly, I remember people. So it was an African investment conference. And people come in and being like, oh my God, we've been eating the hotel, because it was held in one of those big hotels. And they were coming and they were like, we've been eating the hotel food since, and this is the best food we've had at the conference. Like, it was when you said that I remember
they
the man.
Say it.
Because because our food is full of everything. Like, it tastes good, it looks good, it smells good.
And the nutrients.
And it's only us. But you get what I mean? So that's a thing. And we have to figure out, don't know how it's going to work. But
we have to be smart and tactical, even if it means saying, you know what, we'll partner with an international conference. Let's say we'll put your name, attach it, but let's bring it home. Like, I was so proud to see the African, is it Le Cuisine Africaine? I was so proud. I was so proud to see that happen.
Denike went to that. Chef Binta was there.
It looked amazing. But a part of me was still like, why is it in France?
Yes.
You know, it could have been done in Ivory Coast, where there is infrastructure for these kind of things. So even if we'll attach, you know, we'll invite your conference name, we'll cover your flights, your hotels, come invest in the country. That's how you get people to come to conferences. That's what I've seen. A lot of people are paid to, you know, paid 100%. But it's worth it. You're bringing it into your home base, and then you're able to then showcase your talent from home.
Awesome.
I think that's the next step for us, definitely.
100%. Wow. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, and I've loved it.
No, this has been a really good conversation.
So, we can't end yet because we have to do our favorite part of the segment, which is the one bite segment. And I'm really, really passionate and excited for this topic because this is something that we saw recently happen online. And I think off the bat of talking about, you know, the spotlight on our cuisine and seeing African chefs being given the recognition that they so well deserve.
Yes.
How are customers also
aiding
us? How are we being supported when we are, in business? From influencers to customer feedback, expectations, are we supporting Black or African businesses the way we say we are inertly?
Yes.
And there was a situation with Chisuru that happened where a quite known food blogger said she went there with her father and she expected Chef Joke to come to her table to say hello. Meanwhile, they don't know each other. So she went there expecting the chef to meet her because she's Nigerian or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But Chef Joke didn't come and say hello to her. And she saw Chef Joke walk past her table and go say hello to another table, which she made sure to identify were white people. And she went online to say the service was bad. She didn't get the service that she was expecting. She wanted to support Black businesses, and this is how she was received. So now Joke had to come online and say, the service was good. The front of house team were amazing, which you did say, but you wanted me to come to your table to say hi. But I'm not front of house. I'm a chef. I'm busy in the kitchen. And the people you're telling me are the white people I went to say hi to, calling it
white businessmen,
saying I'm highlighting and prioritizing the white crowd and not her own people. These are my family friends who I went to say hi to and run back into the kitchen.
Yes.
It's not her role to be in the front. So my thing is unnecessary expectations from our people.
From our people.
Yeah.
How do we, what is your response on that? What's your one bite?
Deep breaths.
Our sense of ownership and entitlement is beyond. It's beyond. And, I would ask this customer, why do you feel entitled to Joke's time? You're paying her for a service. She has delivered that service greatly. That should be what you take away rather than looking for props or rather than looking for accolades, rather than looking for, I want to be recognized. Oh, by the way, I know the chef too. No. She delivered a service. She delivered it greatly. That should be the end of that. I've been there with a couple of friends, and I'm the sort of person where I don't even want people to know that I'm there. I want to be able to enjoy the experience the way I'm meant to enjoy it. But she recognized me. And I didn't even know that she would recognize me because we haven't seen each other in the longest of time. And she was like, yeah, Chef Sia, right? And I was like, yes, I even tried to hide because I'm like, I'm with people. Before people start thinking, we're going to get preferential treatment. No, we're there so that we can have a good time, support you because we know you're doing great things. And she stopped, she said, hello, hope you guys are having a great time. Bye-bye. Nice, simple interaction.
Nice, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not the one that I'll be standing there for 10 minutes saying, oh, and chatting away. She is busy.
Yeah.
I do not have any ownership of her time. If she had not recognized me, there is no way I would have started bad-mouthing her like, oh, I can't believe she didn't recognize. That's a pity party. You're looking for people to give you, I don't know what to call it, to give you this, is that victim?
To egg you on, basically. Yeah.
I don't get it.
That's rubbish. My one bite on this is, I just think that it's really important. I think you've both said it basically, but it's really important to not be entitled to people's time. You have to keep in mind when you go to spaces, the effort that goes into executing it at the level that she's executing it at. You have to keep in mind that, yes, she may have come out to see someone else and she didn't say hello to you. But if it is that you wanted an interaction with her, I would just be like, hi, even if that really was something that you would have liked, you could also initiate that. So the expectation that someone that is probably thinking about whatever she has in the oven or whatever she has on the fire or whatever she's doing back of house where she's meant to be, that they're meant to make time for you without knowing you is wrong, Sha. I don't know how else to say it. If you really did want that, there was nothing stopping you from initiating that.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, in so many establishments that are getting spotlights and do have so much recognition, you're not the only one that has flown or driven X, Y, and Z to get there.
Right.
That place is probably filled with all types of different people who have taken a long
Yeah.
journey. So it's, if, like you said, you can ask. And if I was there and I said, you know what, my dad came all the way to come to this restaurant, she has two options. She can come and say, hi, thank you so much for coming.
Or she can
But if she
politely
doesn't,
decline.
it's okay. My question to you is, if you went to another establishment that was white, the chef was white or whatever, are you coming in with that same entitlement that the chef must come and say hello to you? No. But because... So we need to stop that, or because you feel you have some sort of
monopoly over anybody's
they have
time.
every right to come to you because you share the same
skin color
or
anything
citizenship
else.
or whatever the case is. I don't go to a Michelin star restaurant in Finland and think that the chef is going to come all the way and say hello to me.
Imagine that. I would even want to ask her, if she had actually come to say hello, would you have been peeved if she didn't know who you were? Because you're saying that she was a blogger type person. Would you have been peeved? Or maybe she's saying hello to all the tables just to say hello. Would you have been like, oh, I can't believe she didn't know that I am a blogger from...
There will always be something.
There would have been something, because if that's going to be the angle you take, then there will be something. And it's important to note that she didn't state how many other tables there were there. She said she only went to one other table. So if she only went to one table, why have you suddenly victimized yourself?
Said. She said, if I went to every single table and said hello,
then that would be justified.
That's justified.
But she did. So we don't know how many other tables were there. But you're upset she didn't come to you. So the other people, they are what? They are bugs. They don't deserve to be seen to. Like, it's ridiculous. It's entitlement at play. So, and honestly,
it's entitlement. And I pray that when we do have more spaces where we are in the positions of, having our restaurants or whatever, getting the spotlight, all our people give us the same kind of respect in the establishment that you'd give any other space.
And the grace that's required, and because she's running a restaurant.
I don't even think it's called grace, because she doesn't need to do the grace.
She doesn't need to do it, but grace is still required from the angle of, okay, she didn't say hello to you, but if you were graceful enough, you'd think your first point of call wouldn't be service was bad. Your first point of call was, oh, she's probably busy. Do you get what I mean?
That
is grace.
I call it etiquette.
Okay, etiquette, grace, however you want to look at it. Extend a level of understanding that the world doesn't
revolve around you.
Thank you for finishing my sentence, because that's what I needed. Okay, we can wrap up the one bite segment there.
Yeah.
That was great. Sia, Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
I had fun.
I hope that you've had a great time.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. And please, if you want to shift your career into storytelling,
that would be great.
Don't worry.
Or integrate it.
Yeah.
We'll find out. We'll see. We'll explore it.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you guys kudos, because it's inspiration from being here. I'm so proud of the two of you. You guys are doing amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Pleasure. Okay, so please remember that you can listen to our podcast on all podcast streaming platforms. It is also available to watch on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about our episodes, because we do really appreciate your feedback and we need it to know what kind of content you guys would like from us.
Exactly. And please make sure to follow all our social media handles at One Bite Pod. Make sure you like, interact, share, support, whatever you can to make sure that this name is known across the world.
Thank you so much to Woodscope for allowing us to use this showroom to record our episodes. And of course, we also want to thank our partners, Arrow House Studios, for recording this content for us to share with you.
And a massive, massive thank you to our sponsors, Tommy, for keeping us hydrated throughout the episode.
We look forward to dishing it out with you all this season.
One bite at a time.